Now that our project is on a mobile platform, let's go ahead and implement our mobile UI. You'll recall things like pausing the game, changing our weapons, or even spawning an ally have key inputs required. Namely, tab changes our weapon, escape pauses the game, and the 1 key summons an ally. These aren't inputs that we have access to on a mobile device, so we're going to add buttons to our screen that we can press in order to achieve these same functions. Let's start by adding a new canvas to our scene. I'm going to do this by going to the hierarchy window and selecting Create, UI, Canvas. I'm going to name this canvas Mobile Interface Canvas. This mobile interface canvas is going to provide the buttons I need and a joystick that's going to allow me to use thumb controls to move the player and aim the weapons. It's important for this interface to sit behind our pause menu, because if we want to pause the game and have the pause menu come up, we don't want our mobile interface to receive our inputs as opposed to the pause menu. Therefore, we need to tell this mobile interface to render behind the pause menu. We're going to do this by adjusting this canvas's sort order. On the mobile interface canvas, I'm going to go to the canvas component and set its sort order to -1. Now, when the pause menu pops up, which has a sort order of 0, it will take precedence over my mobile interface canvas. So any buttons that I press on the pause menu will render as button presses on the pause menu and not inputs on the mobile interface canvas. Next, I'm going to tell my mobile interface canvas to disable itself if we're not on a mobile platform. That way we don't have to remember to turn things on and off as we switch between build platforms. I have a helper script that's going to assist us with doing that, and I'm going to add it by going to Add Component, Scripts, Mobile Interface. There's nothing that we need to do with this script. It's simply going to check our platform and disable this game object if we're not on mobile. The other thing this script does is it checks for the input axis cancel. You'll recall that cancel is the escape key. However, on mobile devices that have a back key, the back key will also render as a cancel input. Therefore, if players are using, say, an Android device and they press the back arrow, that will register as a cancel command and call application.quit, exiting the game. The mobile interface canvas is going to have 3 child objects. One child object is going to be our pause button, the other is going to be our switch attack button, and then we're going to create a unique game object that's going to handle all touch controls and treat them as joysticks. Let's create that one first. I'm going to right click on the mobile interface canvas and I'm going to choose UI, Image. I'm going to name this image Touchpad. Now I'm not really going to need to assign an image. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to be able to see this image when I'm done with it. But here's what I'm going to do. I need to stretch this image over the entire canvas. It's to click the Anchor Presets button in the inspector and look at the lower right hand corner. If I hold down Alt on a PC or Option on a Mac and click in the lower right hand corner, we can see that the image will be stretched over the entire canvas. If I click on the game view, you'll see that my game view is now just a giant white block. Obviously I don't want this, but I do need an image in order to receive these touch inputs. So what I'm going to do is click on the color of this image and change its alpha to 0. Now we can no longer see this full screen image, but it's there and will receive any touch inputs that we want. To treat this image as the receiver of 3 unique Unity events, we're going to add a new script to it. That script is the touchpad script. I can find that script in the scripts folder, subfolder UI. I'm going to click and drag the touchpad script onto my touchpad game object, and you'll see that there's nothing I can change on it except for the smoothing value, which is just how smoothly we move from one position to another. We're going to treat this touchpad game object as if it was a mechanical input, like keys on a keyboard or our mouse. The code inside the touchpad script is fully commented if you want to explore it. We don't really want to get too deep into it in this video. However, it's worth summarizing in this way. The touchpad script is going to treat our first touch as the movement touch. Therefore, the first time we touch the screen, we're going to be handling our movement or horizontal axis. The second touch is going to be our mouse input. Namely, it's going to move us around. This mechanic allows us to use our left hand to move our character around and our right hand to aim. However, if we wanted to, we could use our right hand to move our character around and our left hand to aim. It's really just a matter of which hand you put on the screen first, and allows you to even switch during gameplay. Another important thing to know about these inputs is that for the purposes of mobile, we're going to treat any time you're aiming to also be shooting. Simply holding down on the screen will cause the player to continue to shoot. Attacks with a very slow rate of fire, like the sting attack and slime attack, however, will only fire when we lift our finger off the screen. The next element I'm going to add to the mobile interface canvas is going to be our pause button. I'm going to do this by right-clicking on the mobile interface canvas and selecting UI, Text. I could create an image, but I actually don't have a pause button image. So instead we're going to use text, and we're going to see that we can actually make it look just the way we want. I'm going to rename this text to say pause button. To position the pause button, I'm going to go ahead and put my scene in 2D mode. I'm then going to double click on the pause button to zoom out and look at it. I'm going to position the anchor of this text object in the upper right hand corner. And then I'm going to position it at -75, -75, 0 with a width and height of 100. To get the pause icon, I'm going to go ahead and change the text to capital I, capital I. I'll change my font to be Luckiest Guy, and I'll set my font size to be 50, and I'll right align it. Finally, I'll change the color to be white. Now that I have the pause text looking the way I want, I'm going to go ahead and add a button component to it. I'm going to do this by clicking Add Component, UI, Button. For this button, I won't need a transition, as all I really need is an on-click event. I'll add an on-click event by clicking the plus icon in the lower right-hand corner, and the object I'm going to modify is going to be my pause menu canvas. The pause menu canvas is going to call the function pauseMenu.pause. The final UI element I need is going to be my web. I'm going to create this by right-clicking on the mobile interface canvas in the hierarchy and going to UI Image. I'm going to rename this to Switch Attack Button. I'm going to move the anchor to be stretched out over a small percentage of the upper left-hand corner. I'm going to position it at 0.01, 0.9, 0.08, 0.99. Then I'm going to set the left, top, position Z, right, and bottom to 0. The image I'm going to use can be found in the UI folder. I'm going to locate the UI button high and click and drag that over to the source image. Finally, to turn it into a button, I'm going to add a button component by clicking Add Component, UI, Button. Just like the pause button, this is not going to need a transition. Instead, I'm going to add an on-click event, and this on-click event is going to manipulate our touchpad. It's going to call the function touchpad.switchWeapons. Now our mobile interface canvas is complete. All we have left to do is turn it into a prefab. We can turn it into a prefab by going to the Prefabs folder, subfolder UI, clicking on the mobile interface canvas parent object in the hierarchy, and dragging it to the project window. It's worth noting that our mobile interface canvas currently allows us to switch our weapon and pause the game, but the touchpad does not currently allow us to move the character or aim our weapons. In the next section, we're going to look at what behaviors we need to add to the players in order to enable them to use the touchpad for inputs.